I was watching that earlier. I think it was the governor from Kentucky. That, you know, almost everybody in the hospital were people who didn't vaccinate. I mean, you know, it's not just for you, it's for everybody else and for all of these healthcare people who are overwhelmed. I mean, everybody has to do their part. So I was looking, well, that was the news, but there was one thing, because Governor Cuomo is, and rightfully so, you know, saying this is a due process issue, this is a due process issue, and that's what, you know, is important here, and let the process, you know, go wherever that's going to go, but we have to respect due process, and you know, rightfully so, and that's all really he's saying, apart from denying. And I was reading through the report, but it came up, you know, the actual report, and okay, first I want to find out who put together that report, who did the investigation, because this gets into my case against the IMF. And when I was ousted, the workplace bullying cases that I have against them. And I went through the process of, I don't know, the ombudsman got a letter from me. I actually had an interview with her, the mediator, the what is it, ombudsman, mediator, ethics committee, and then there was some special investigator. I also contacted the staff association, because they should be on this, because if those little ladies, this is all ladies, the ombudsman, the ethics committee, etc., are not doing their job, well, the staff association should be with the colonoscopy. And it's also, you know, the men director and the Institute for Capacity Development. Why am I the one taking all the heat? I'm the only one denouncing this. They're sitting pretty, you know, with their six-figure salaries and fancy homes and no worries. I mean, they've all worked online. We even practiced that when I was working there. So I know they already had that in place, staying home with their families. Because believe me, a lot of the time, it's seat warming. And the rest of the time, it's just producing training for all of the finance ministries around the world to manipulate the banking systems and financial markets to support all of the corruption and amorality that's going on in them. So, you know, they're training these guys how to support corruption, just like we do in the United States. So anyway, this is, you know, that whole process is I mean, the ombudsmen, the ethics people, they're out of control. I mean, as I say, I only have the one case that and you know, when I met with the ethics committee and then the mediator, Gita Ravindra, I mean, I was floored. I couldn't believe these idiot women actually said the things that they said to me. Ethics committee was, well, it might be illegal, but it's not immoral. Now I've heard it's amoral, but not illegal for my entire life, but that was the first time I heard it's illegal but not immoral. You know, discrimination, bullying is, I don't know exactly, this is what I want to find out in court, exactly what, you know, is illegal here, but not immoral. So anyway, this is, oh, and then Gita Ravindra, when, you know, she basically, all she had to say to me was, if I was more conciliatory. See, these ladies get my temperature. If I was more conciliatory, I'm like, lady, I'm the only one who in this town who's conciliatory. But you cannot negotiate with terrorists like you little ladies. So, you know, whoever put together that report needs to be investigated. The whole thing. And in the report, there was something that I was just like, oh, this is not ding, ding, ding. This is pam, pom, pam, pom, pam, pom. Comment. So this was Caitlin. I guess they didn't, there wasn't the last name. And Governor Cuomo, one of the things, this was number 2, I think, that she was, you know, criticizing him for and using as an example of sexual harassment. See, that's also, can somebody please explain for me that how that like is sexual harassment? What apparently Governor Cuomo had asked was if the mean girls in his senior staff, how they were treating her. The little hornet's nest of viperous little backstabbing bitches who have been grappling up the ladder of success in these organizations, the administrative function we're talking, you know, and to the root to office manager or HR and all these seat warming BS that's going on. You know, they've been consolidating their power base. I mean, that has a lot to do with my ousting, was these little ladies were gonna show me who was boss. Because Adrian, in fact, like the clencher with Adrian was that I wouldn't admit that I had done something wrong. When I had called the office management of 1919 Penn to complain about the coffee shop altercation, see something, say something. I was like, Adrian, this was my obligation as a citizen, and you're really crossing the line to, you know, criticize me for it in the first place, and then try and strong arm me to admit under torture. See, they don't, you know, they don't do the physical torture. It's this, you know, psychological manipulations. And I mean, some of these ladies, you're like, how can anybody buy what you're saying? It's incredible. This is how far the feminists have infiltrated and dominate the conversation. Everybody's like, the conversation. I said, ladies, your conversation is the same bullshit that they're having at the country clubs. I mean, this has been going on for thousands of years. You guys have just figured out a way to make a whole lot of money doing it. I mean, made an entire industry out of doing it. So, oh, I'm sorry, I hadn't finished the due process. So, okay, then I'll finish the due process. So that was just something in the report that I was like, how can you be using this as an example? What's discriminatory there, or what's harassing there? Sorry, harassing. And how could anybody buy it? The whole thing just stunk of feminism and a witch hunt from top to bottom. Well, I guess, this is due process. So we also have a due process issue. An example of that in the second impeachment of Trump. I didn't follow all of that. I mean, really, as I say, I was just like, you guys do your cacophony. And when the violence escalates and gets to a point where you actually start getting afraid and noticing, then maybe somebody will listen. So, as I say, but I did, it was the speech at the end by Michael van der Veen. And, he does a very good job in that. And I mean, I have to say, excellent job. And he highlights in, his closing argument that Raskin, Congressman Raskin, he's the Democrat from Maryland, who was on the witch hunt committee. His argumentation made no sense whatsoever. I forget exactly what Raskin, what Van der Veen had said, but it was like, wait a second, this is, not even a first-year law student would pull, they would know better than that. Because they would understand the fundamentals of law and legal principles better than the gobbledygook you just came out with. And he was right. So, Trump, the attempts to impeach Trump were just as politically motivated as Governor Cuomo. Now, that does not mean that there was no fire in the case of Trump. Just like I say with Ailes and Weinstein, Epstein. However, the motivation of pursuing these people is a political agenda of the feminists. I mean, okay, Trump is a political agenda of the left, so which includes the feminists. But and they're in there. Pelosi, oh Lord, is she in there? But it is politically motivated. You can do whatever you want as long as you don't make any enemy that'll come after you on a witch hunt. And if there's nothing there, we'll just make it up. One of the first lawyers that I spoke with in Spain, like, I'm stupid because everybody lies in court. Everybody falsifies documents. I mean, it was one of those moments where I'm just sitting there going, okay, I have fallen into the wonderland of Alice, because this is what they are going to use as their defense. I mean, of course, the woman, because of course it was a woman who was stupid enough to say something like that. This is some stupid trophy wife, deposed trophy wife, married to the rich banker who's just been a parasite society and hung out in country clubs all of her life. And rich American, social climbing American who snagged the wealthy Spaniard. And nothing could be farther from the truth. But they don't care. The you know, the family law lawyers, the divorce lawyers, don't care. They just want to fill out the paperwork and bill as much money as they possibly can. And they're all doing it. And, you know, too bad if there's a shit show, there's a shit show, not their problem, not their responsibility. Well, it is, because this is what I've been, you know, documenting, lawyer after lawyer after lawyer after lawyer after lawyer. I mean, as I keep on saying, if you find a problem with my argumentation, or how I've built cases, or the evidence building, you know, any aspect, people can tell me. Oh my, I can't wait. Carrie Kennedy is in the packet. And I was watching videos, a speech of her. So I won't go into everything that, you know, I'll be getting into that when her card comes up. But there was something that really shocked me was, you know, she was like speaking like a very elderly person. And I Googled, and effectively it looks like she has, you know, the beginning of Alzheimer's. This is her lifestyle. This is the narcissism epidemic. It's the feminists, which they're all narcissists. Most of them are psychopaths, I think. Suffer from Munchausen by proxy, but yeah, her human rights org. One more example of window dressing and just cashing in. And I was listening to a speech, but I'll wait till that gets, you know, comes up. But in Como's report, it just, it was just one of these maneuvers. And because not only are they going after Governor Cuomo, but they're also, you know, defining and reinforcing, because this is their narrative, you know, it's filled with it, but reinforcing this narrative that they have, that all women are oppressed, all women want to go into the workplace, all women want positions of power, women have been kept out of these positions for centuries and centuries, and if they get in, then the world will be all a wonderful place. Even though, you know, Carrie Kennedy was, you know, just this pro-America propaganda, and quite frankly, really cashing in on the name of her father. It looks like it, you know, the entire Kennedy family has been doing that, Bobby and JFK. You know, they are not, I mean, what the domestic violence, the lobbyists for the National Coalition on Domestic Violence told me, what we needed was a new civil rights movement. Well, if the civil rights movement of the 60s and 70s was such a success, why would we need a new one? And why is the country facing so many problems? And another civil war, totally splitting up. You know, so if one listens to the logic of the feminists, but also the managerialists, the minoritist. It's like, well, wait a second, if you look at these things with logic, common sense, like common sense, there is none. And the people are just pomp and circumstance. Also, there was, and I had heard this before, but it was one of the news from years ago, covering the Como Kennedy marriage, and that it had broken up. And one of the criticisms of the Kennedy family was that Andrew Cuomo was no fun. I'm like, yeah, see, ding, ding, ding. Another time we go ding, ding, ding. Yeah, this is the problem, you Kennedys, and all of you other people in Washington. That's all you want to do. Party, get up and podium, say how wonderful you are, how much good in the world. I think I heard Carrie Kennedy say something like, good in the world. I promise you, they have it like a, brainwashing tape. They have to learn to say it in all the same way, just like in any sect. It really is a sect. And with the whole Kennedy thing, with when the El Chapo Speaks article came out from Sean Penn, and he was bashed and bullied by everyone. To such a extent, he went on 60 Minutes apologizing. I was, because it was actually then that I saw in the news about the Rolling Stones magazine article. Otherwise, I don't think well, maybe I would have, because it would have, gone someplace. But I was like, my God, you little bitches. And the old, I'm talking about the men and the women journalists. But Sean Penn, of course he's right, and he should be given a voice, and everybody should listen to what he's saying. But one of the comments, and in these articles, was some woman saying, well, of course, Sean Penn shouldn't be doing this. Can you imagine if El Chapo, with all that money, his son and his children were to become president of Mexico and become a new, political dynasty in the country? And Pablo Escobar, I mean, it's the same story, and the reason he got into it, and that's why also what Sean Penn was trying to bring up was really important. But it's the same thing. Pablo Escobar, he was willing to settle the national debt of Colombia if they wouldn't go after him and leave him alone. They didn't do it because they had their buddies and the Americans with lots of weapons and lots of spray to help them get rid of the drug trade that the Americans are producing down there. See how it all makes no sense. So anyway, the Kennedy family, so you got the drug lord family, and this woman is saying, could you imagine them being later a political family and getting into power? And I'm like, excuse me, my little dear, where do you think the Kennedys got their money? And then what was it? I think it was Joe, the Bobby and John's father, wants to clean make the family respectable. So he decides to get, into the political. He was an ambassador, and so of course he's wealthy, and he cleans up the business and the image of the family. But the traditions and the customs of the family didn't change. The immorality. I mean, the kind of justification of, because lots of people did bootlegging. And that was one of the problems. And you had deaths, and you had a lot of health problems from that, like we see with the war on drugs. But they really did amass a fortune, and there's lots of violence that goes on with that. So I was like, excuse me, yet I'm sure when any of the Kennedys get on the podium, little lady, you're the first to go, hail to the Kennedys. Yet you're using that as an excuse that Sean Penn should be shut up and should be ashamed of himself. Oh, when Diane Sawyer had Kate the Castillo on an interview, and Diane Sawyer said to Kate, aren't you ashamed of yourself? It's like, oh, Diane Sawyer, I'm going to be so happy when you are sitting there up on a stand, and I could say, aren't you ashamed of yourself? She, with Abby Boudreau, covered the, I'm pretty sure I spoke about this as well, the Left Behind fathers. I think that would have been around 2013 or so. And I had already been after Abby Boudreau for over a year with all of the information that I had been collecting in the cases, and no. But the politically correct agenda is the poor left behind father. That's the minority of the cases. The majority of these cases are the protective parent. We do have to always say protective parent, because sometimes it is the father. Oh, there's some real pieces of work out there, and they're being aided and abetted. And another thing that's always important to point out in discussing these issues is that just because a person, woman, let's use that because it's me, because when both of them are abusive, the woman is usually the one who's getting the physical abuse. The man is the one who gets the psychological abuse, because few women, only 10% of physical and sexual violence in the world is perpetrated by women. And I keep on saying the fact that the feminists want to get the women an equal percentage of who perpetrates physical and sexual violence, I don't think it's an improvement, and I fail to understand how it is liberating women and children. Another thing of logic here, please. Could somebody explain to little Alice here, who is in a wonderland that she doesn't understand because it does not apply to any kind of real world fundamentals of gravity of science. But anyway, so all of these people are just out of control, out of control, out of control. The more and more, see, this is why it's important to look at the evidence, which nobody does, even the journalists, particularly the journalists. So Glenn Greenwald earlier speaking. So again, we need due process. Doesn't matter if it's in the courts or within the workplaces, where they're supposed to be, you know, handling this internally, but of course they're not. It's just a game for all of the people. And the thing is, there's nobody that will hold them to account. Everybody's doing it. Well, the lawyers are out to lunch. So, you know, this gaslighting stuff has got to stop. Oh, I was thinking about this earlier today. I'm my own little gaslighters here. One of the tactics of the abusers is to turn the tables and try and make it out that the victim is the one who is being aggressive. And you know, get the particularly if, like my case, if the husband has been called by the police, what their side will try and do is, you know, he'll try to ignite and start fights and get it escalated so that he's justified, and he calls, or the neighbors call the cops, and you know, they find two totally out of control people. So I always tell the little ladies, I say, do not go there. Just keep your cool, whatever they do, whatever they say, just keep your cool, you know, just keep on going into another room and don't let it escalate, because it you know, it will be used against you. Because as I say, and you know, that's another problem with the victims. You can't just okay, when you know, you're in these group therapies or whatever situation, you can sit there and scream and yell and vent and you know, get it all off your chest all you want, but the court of law is not the place. And when you're going through all of this process, you really do have to, I mean, I'm not saying, you know, of course you're distraught, but you have to keep it together also. I mean, you can't go, you know, just hysterically screaming, because then nobody understands what you're saying, what your problem is. So you have to remain, I mean, understandably you're upset, but you have to remain coherent. So it's all very, very convoluted. You know, where the system is failing, where shall I start? So everything needs to be addressed, and from a holistic perspective, but also individually, point by point by point by point. And you know, the gaslighting stuff has got to stop. Oh, with my ex, what he tried to do was, there was a, you have to understand, this is Spain. when you go over to somebody's house for dinner in the summertime, particularly, you might be showing up at 10:30 in the evening because you have dinner around 11:30, and then you sit out there because it's nice and cool. Particularly during August when they're all on vacation. Oh gosh, you could be out there playing cards until 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. So you know, they have, admittedly, they have a different you know, conception of time and for children particularly, and bedtimes. So my husband, he calls the cops because he wanted to take my sons, our sons, to Madrid. We live in the suburbs, so it takes about 30 minutes. I mean, okay, at that hour there's not traffic, but at least 20 minutes to get into Madrid. And the game starts at 11 o'clock at night. And this is a school night. And I said, no, I'm sorry. No. So, you know, I put my foot down and he's throwing a fit. My poor kids get stuck in the middle. And, you know, like, Mom, just tease him and like, because he's losing it. And I'm like, no, I can't, because what he's also trying to do there is establish this, you know, I can do anything that I want. You know, the divorce is started by now, or in the process of starting. I said, yeah, it's gonna be. I had already filed the complaint. That was. But that was the tactic. Well, first to, you know, I'm king. I'm dictator here. Anything and everything that I want. And whatever I don't want, I'm going to throw a fit until you give me what I want. Like a child. This guy, these people. You know, and just like a child, you give in, or then you never will finish, because it's going to be, oh, that's what the marriage was. But anyway, so the other thing was, when I put my foot down, call the cops. So of course the cops come over the house. And they come in, you know, he's hysterical. And they come into the kitchen, because I'm in the kitchen cooking. And they come in and they're like, lady, what's going on here? And one of them comes in, talks to me, and the other one is out there in the living room, and my poor children witnessing this scene. And the cop just said to me, he said, lady, this is ridiculous. We're being called to the house because your husband wants to take the kids to a football game and you won't let him. And I said, sir, you tell me how ridiculous it is. Why don't you tell the courts that? So, you know, I just like, I stay in the kitchen fixing dinner, or I was still fixing dinner, and see how late we eat some in the summertime, and you know, was not going to let him get me into a screaming match. But I said, no, they have school tomorrow. That is absolutely ridiculous. You know, that is not something that I would ever let them do. And, you know, you're just trying to new rule, and I'm dictator. And then, believe me, we see this all the time, the tactic, call the cops, get the cops to start going after the victim. Oh, and they did that as well. That'll come up later in the cards with Kerry Kennedy. It'll be interesting to see how that goes into her DUI. So anyway, and her Alzheimer's, I was, she was stuttering and everything. This is the Daniel Amen. That gets in the law to the book there. When you don't use your brain, it atrophies. Getting up on the podium and self-promoting and giving speeches like I was listening to is not stimulating your brain in any way, shape, or form, or the lifestyle that what with the DUI, well, no, because she had popped some pill instead of being drunk. Well, I don't know what the pill was. I don't know, but I mean, is everybody in this country on some sort of Valium, or I don't know, I can't keep up. What is it, Xanax? I mean, when I listen to some of the discussions of these people, oh no, I take Xanax, or as I say, I don't know what they all are, but they sit there and discuss what different drugs they're taking, pharmaceuticals. I'm like, my God, this country really is filled with drug addicts all over the place. Oh gosh. Well, as I say, I won't go into everything with Kerry Kennedy because she'll come up. But this, I was just listening. It was about the one of the things that she was, in not giving an award, but oh, here's our model example, and she just won some award, or something to the effect of some human rights liberator, this woman, feminist, great human rights guru and advocate, because she had opened 100 shelters for battered women in Russia. This is one of my pet peeves. One of my pet peeves. I'm like, excuse me, you guys. The only thing that you keep on offering the victims is a shelter so they can run away and hide and run away again and run away again. And the conditions in those shelters, a lot of times it's more abusive, the situations there, than the women left in their homes. When I was demonstrating, campaigning for Hillary Clinton in 2016, I'm going through Columbia Heights. And I'm like, vote clear Hillary, vote clear Hillary. And one Black woman says to me, she's like, what have the Obamas ever done for us? I'm like, well, no, nothing. She said, I'm some poor Black woman who just got thrown out from the shelter. I got 3 kids. The place was horrible. She said, but I'm some poor Black woman. Who's going to believe me? I said, nobody, lady, nobody. That's why I'm sticking my neck in the news, because they will believe me. Oh, we know each other. And why them giving me a voice is going to be a big, big problem. But when I get to the line, they're going to believe me. And that's why I'm doing it. She shook my hand and she said, thank you. I mean, the people want to stop being bullshitted by everybody. Everybody's everywhere they go. I mean, the people are not as stupid as all the PhDs think they are. The ones who are stupid, all the PhDs on their little podiums. Okay, so that was, sorry, I was just watching that stuff and I'm still working on all of that mess. We'll see when the dark. Believe me, there's even more there. I could say this. Although I guess I did cover quite a bit. Sorry, I guess I have to talk. I need to see about getting one of those. I have one someplace in that. Yeah, clean everything out. Oh, come on. Well, let's just do this off the top. Oh, look, oh, we got the feminists there. Okay, what time is it? Well, it's 19. I'll do 2 and we'll go on too long. I'll do 3. Okay. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, this is IMFA again. Okay, well, I know I've spoken a lot about. Oh, the spirit guide was listening. I got Carrie Kennedy here. Governor Como. Okay, so well, I guess what I was saying, I can expand on that. There's as I say, I did cover quite a bit. Okay, Corey Lewandowski. Okay, Trump's campaign manager, 2015-2016. Trumpanzi, I'm not sure. That's file 2. File 3, we've got Kevin McCarthy, representative from California. So, Brad Parscale, digital media director, Trump 2016 campaign, Trojan horse. Okay, let's start. Okay, let's do Elizabeth Warren, because I'm still trying to think of what I've covered and what I haven't. Oh, yeah, I have some stuff there that I haven't covered. Okay, Senator Elizabeth Warren, the 2020 president, is a presidential candidate. She was the first one to announce her candidacy. And I immediately, through, yeah, I forget, it was the contact, because they usually just have a contact form, but I sent, I contacted her campaign saying this is what she needs to do to win. It's posted on my oh my Lord. Am I already getting tired? My Taking Back America for the People website. I kept on thinking about the war on domestic terrorism, but I think that one had been blocked by that time, and so that's why I have the other one. I mean, blocked. I can't upload anything anymore. And GoDaddy, I gave him $1,000, drips of drabs with promises, and oh no, too bad, lady. Of course, no recourse. See, because people pissed I'm out $1,000 and there's nothing I can do about it. That's a lot of money for me. So, here's what you got to do to win. Of course, ignore me. I'm not part of the game. I'm not, I don't know anything because I'm not part of the little club. And so, of course, that never went anywhere. And Elizabeth Warren, there's actually a photo of me with Elizabeth Warren with a Mothers of Lost t-shirt on it. She, their office is one of the ones we've been lobbying. And I went because Kathy Lee Cato, her case, she's Massachusetts, her case is there. And so it was one of these coffee mornings that they do with the senators. I'm not sure if the House side does it as well, or just the senators. But you go in, you get in line, and you say hi to the senator, and you get your photo taken. I'm like, yeah, well, they did. When I left Senator Johnston's office, they did that, and I'm like, oh, well, that was nice, but I mean, it was like kind of a big deal, and I was like, well, that was a nice touch, but who cares? So anyway, I went because Kathy Lee Cato had said, could you please go? So we have the Mothers of Lost Children t-shirt with Elizabeth Warren. So we have it, but and Elizabeth Warren was like, oh, because I'm here representing Mothers of Lost Children. Oh, you all are doing such important work. Same spiel. I mean, unfortunately, this is not the time and place to get into a conversation, a lobbying, because that's what her staffer is there for. And that's where we're meeting with the staffer. And that's the appropriate chain of command. However, if they all have brain dead staffers, what good does it do? This is the crux of the problem up on Capitol Hill. Even if you are good intentions, all the little bimbos, all the idiots, because they helped with the election, the campaign, and brown-nosed everybody and kiss. That's, I mean, it's like that world. That's what Americans do nowadays, the ruling elite, and then you go after Como for hugging and kissing. I'm like, come on, you guys, get your story straight. At least be consistent. I know it's impossible. It's impossible. Pathologicals, liars, they're never consistent. That's why it's so easy to catch them. I mean, I've been around pathological liars all the time, all my life. I'm like, that just contradicts what you said 2 seconds ago. And it contradicts what you said yesterday. See, this is what drives all of the pathological liars around me. Absolutely batty. Absolutely batty. Because I do have a really, really good memory. Now, of course, not what the football scores are. Let's just say my focus on or my attention and what I find important to remember differs very greatly from the majority of the world. So a lot of times they may think that I don't remember things and I don't have a good memory, because I'm like, no, it wasn't important. But important things, particularly when I know somebody's lying to me. I love the movie, excuse me, the song, I know you're lying because your lips are moving. And that's become normal. Really, these narcissists have just normalized that. Everybody does it. That's why I threaten them. They don't want me back in their little, stirring up the pot and exposing their game. So, Elizabeth Warren, you're also with a problem there because we have been lobbying you for years and years and years, and nothing gets done. And why? Of course, you've got the family courts are the little ladies with the rolling pins, pissed off and not going to become a physical threat. But they will piss off enough men around them, whether related to what they're doing or just in their own lives or wherever, or their workplaces, that will, piss them off and ignite them. And that's why it's the norms and customs of women that maintain the violence of men. Because most men, excuse me, you men out there, they're kind of like dogs. You keep them well fed. You give them a big football TV screen to watch. They're usually not too problematic. It's when they get the women in there, you get out there. That they can become volatile. No, I am generalizing because you can't put it all on the women, but even the literature, this is what you'll see in the international development community. That's kind of the cycle, how it goes. So Elizabeth Warren could have won, and she would be a much better choice than Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And once again, you're only as good as those that you surround yourselves with, and they're bullshitting you, and their agenda is not the good of the organization, or it's their own personal or professional agendas that they're interested in. I mean, how can you have a democracy if everybody in your agencies and your political parties are just trying to cash in and further their own interests? And a bunch of narcissists who are being bought, because I mean the money that is in there is absolutely disgusting. Which the 2020 elections, I don't think we've ever had so many candidates for one party, and particularly all stuck up on a podium. I would love to know how much money was spent between all of the different candidates, in staff, in their entire budget. Wasted money. That money could have been better used, and those jobs more productive and better for the common good than the cacophony that was produced by those the primaries. And I mean, as I keep on saying, really there was Elizabeth Warren and Buttigieg. But as I even said at the time, I said, I hadn't heard him, I think, like a lot of people, but he's intelligent. He thinks before he opens his freaking mouth. But he's green. He's young. And it's good that he now is I'm pretty sure it's the Labor Department, and that's a good thing, but that department needs to be cleaned up just like everybody else. Where are they on all the labor rights violations going on in this country? To lunch. Just like all the NGOs. So, Elizabeth Warren, instead of being so buddy-buddy with your feminist friends and the Women's March stuff, I don't know if you wore a hat, but oh God, you ladies, come on, come up with some ideas a little bit more dignified. I mean, basically what the feminists is, they want to turn all women into whores and commodities. How is that liberating women and children? See why they don't want to give me a voice? Because also they know if we do get into a debate, I'll chew them up and spit them out. I don't have any place to go. Okay, so let's pull out the other feminist. I was just starting to look at this stuff. So, I already went into, the Kennedy family, and they just want a party. And Governor Cuomo wasn't enough of a party boy for their likings. When they said, these were the two political power families, I guess, when Governor Cuomo and Kerry Kennedy got married, that he was from the example of the hard-working immigrant, Sicilian, mind you, which, the Sicilians are the American mafia. So this is, another point in their favor. They could have gotten, in business with their little cousins. Instead, it's the Kennedys who are in bed with the little cousins. And then investigating a generation later. See, it's all very hypocritical. And so I mean, this is the big human rights champion, and this family is the icon of what America is about, and what the founding fathers wanted for this country, and everything else you can think of. So, Ethel Kennedy. Ethel Kennedy has been known. I mean, I even heard about Ethel Kennedy when I came here in the 70s. It was the joke, constantly DUI, but the police, they couldn't touch her. They couldn't stop her or anything like that. At that point, we got Marion Barry on his cocaine charges. I remember Doug Shar, he said to me, he loved it. Marion Barry, they put a bag over his head when he's being, taken away. So like people won't notice who he is or see who he is or something. And Doug was like, he's gonna probably suffocate. Or maybe he'll suffocate, something to that. I mean, come on, Washington at the time, there were a lot, the hypocrisy. Oh, sorry. And stuff like that. I mean, Washington was the murder capital of the United States at that time. And believe me, for the people who worked here, young girls particularly, well, young women, you know, because working in nightclubs, what you got the I can't even remember now. What was it? Last call for alcohol? Was it midnight? Forget. But then, you know, you got to get everybody out, and then you got to close out. You got, you know, you don't get out at midnight by the time you get out. And if anybody, you know, hangs out, has a couple drinks or so, because there are the after hour, I mean, you know, after hour parties. I mean, there's some real after hour parties, or you sometimes have some of the employees hanging out and having a drink themselves after a night. So, you know, sometimes at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm headed home on my bicycle, because of course I can't even afford public transportation, because I'm, you know, helping pay my way through school. I mean, I paid, long story of all of that, but you know, I progressively, by the end, I was paying practically everything. I think I was paying everything: room, board, tuition, and of course I was always late. But see, I never got a loan. The one who loaned me money was GW at 0% interest rate. Okay, I had to come up with the money by the end of the semester, so I'd be saving and saving and saving, because I didn't have the cash flow, and so I'd come up with the money so I could go the next semester. But it was GW. Basically, that was a loan at 0%. Rather, I mean, there was no way. So I you know, and Ethel Kennedy and all of that, you know, is one of the grand dames of Washington, the dowagers, one of the ones that, you know, I'm a cave dweller. Cave dwellers come from the that was like in the 1920s, I think, particularly. That I think that word came to vogue, because it was all of the old guard, the descendants of still who were around from the founding fathers, the colonial times, you know, the Eastern colonial families of and all of that was agrarian. And they were, I mean, when the Gilded Age came in, you know, the New York society, the Ascots, all of those were crass women. Vanderbilt, all of those were not accepted by the old guard ruling elite, and they were really ousted. Because with the Gilded Age, who had the money, it was all of the robber barons. And so that's how really that transformation happened. And we just repeated that with the Golden Age. And everything that's gone, you know, prohibition is the same as war on drugs. You know, and why I'm like, yeah, the Kennedy family. Didn't you guys learn something first time around? I mean, weren't you supposed to become a respectable family and a political icon? Oh, this city, Rome, is burning, and you all are one of the families, the royal family of the United States, that's responsible. Why? Because you're based on the principles of the robber barons and, you know, philanthropy went just to cover up your greed, your immorality, your hypocrisy, your narcissism. All right. Oh, I'm sorry, but Karen Kennedy is one piece of work. I hadn't seen anything about her before. I hadn't seen her speaking, but I was listening to her speak. Long before. Typical feminist. I mean, I won't speculate on the daughters. I mean, I know one daughter, at least my understanding, one daughter has been living with Governor Cuomo, and the two other daughters, because one is promoting the SDGs. I mean, trickle down produced income inequality in the United States because of families like the Kennedys and this let's have fun and Martha's Vineyard. No, I think they're, I forget, Hyannis Point or something. So, but still, it's that whole Palm Beach, Martha's Vineyard, Middleburg, on the West Coast, it's Pebble Beach. You know, that scene, and it's just party. I mean, my God, their movies and TV shows about that one, it is too funny. It's a classic. I love it. I can't, oh gosh, I can't remember. See, I'm really bad with names sometimes. But it's these two, it's these two black they're police officers, detectives, and black men. And, you know, obviously this is, you know, you have to use your imagination, because you can tell that these guys, because they dress in drag and dress up, these two bimbo prima donna blondes. I forget the entire storyline, but I think there's a kidnapping attempt, or so anyway, these two police officers have to dress in drag as these two blonde women and go to the Martha's Vineyard, and there's some fashion show. I mean, it really is funny and well done, but I'm like, see, this is precisely the lifestyle. You know, this is Versailles. We all know how that ended. So trickle down produced this, you know, income inequality. And the Kennedys are part of the motor behind that in the United States. So my whole point is, how are the SDGs going to produce another outcome globally with the same narcissism, partying? I mean, it is obscene, absolutely obscene, the quantity of money that is spent in Washington each month, each year. I mean, of course, with COVID, they're all very poor and very unhappy because they can't cash in and go shopping. But it just, it boggles my mind how it doesn't bother anybody else. The only people bothered is the people who aren't here cashing in. And that's why, oh, I saw that they're planning another demonstration up there on Capitol Hill. I guess that's why they're talking about escalating sorry, I've got this thing down. The security, instead of addressing the issues. No, we'll just hire some more police officers and get some more guns. We'll just bring in the tanks. We'll just shoot down Pennsylvania Avenue and get rid of them all. So I mean, this gets into a lot of the feminists here. Okay, so on this one, apart from Ethel Kennedy, oh, so I'll go into the DUI when we're talking on drunk driving. So Carrie Kennedy was arrested. You know, she had an accident, and I'm pretty sure it was an accident rather than because she swerved. I'm pretty sure she even hurt the other person. Yeah, but, and then, you know, she has her whole family that comes into the court with her. And of course, she comes up with, oh yeah, I you know, mistakenly took some medicine, and that's what did it. So I don't know if she had alcohol or if she didn't have alcohol or what that was. But of course, she's a Kennedy. So she, you know, she gets the Kennedy clan to come into court, and she's absolved. So this brings up one of the things in my case, because what happened, the way that my children, that custody was taken away from me from my children, because this is another tactic. During the divorce proceedings, the abusive parent will try and get transfer of custody of the children to them. Then when you get to the end of the proceeding, the judge just says, oh, well, it's been like this, you know, and so we'll just leave it as it is. This is one of the main tactics. So they'll do anything. Sorry. They'll, you know, they'll come up with anything in order to, you know, get that temporary custody, and then it will become permanent when they finish. So what happened was, and you know, this friend had told me like months in advance that she was organizing it was a woman in the neighborhood, that she was organizing a birthday party for her husband. I was like, okay, fine. And I think it was even maybe before everything exploded. It had been months and months and months and months. And so the night of the party, I had, you know, forgotten about it. The night of the party, she calls me up, and it's like 10:30. And she says, well, did you forget about the party? And I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, I did. Okay, I said, let me just finish, because I was cooking, because all of the kids in the neighborhood, I would always do a Easter egg hunt for all of the kids. Now my kids were getting older by this time, and they weren't, you know, they weren't really that much into it, but some of the younger kids in the neighborhood were like, when are you doing your Easter party? When are you doing your Easter party? So we had put it off. So it was after Easter, but I still was going to do it. So I'm cooking, because I would always then have lunch for everybody and in the yard. And so, you know, I said, oh gosh, I have I think I was making some quiches. So I have those in the oven. I gotta let them finish. I'll get changed and I'll be over. I mean, it's you know, in the neighborhood, 2 minutes, literally 2 minutes from my house. And 2 minutes, I mean, this is an urban neighborhood. That's 2 minutes at like, what is it? What's the slowest speed you can go? 15 miles an hour. So I, you know, go over and, you know, talk to people, had a couple of glasses of wine, have something to eat. And then I forget exactly what time, but then, you know, maybe 1:30, around that time. I mean, I arrived at 11:30. And so, and I was one of the first to be leaving. So I'm gonna go home, and in fact, when I'm about to pull my car out of the parking, because it's, you know, it's not parallel as this, my husband passes by, because he's not living at the house by this time. He's moved out after an extremely unpleasant event. So he I'm like, and he's like looking at me. I'm like, well, what the hell is going on? And so he goes zipping out, and like, whatever, you know, he's going back to his parents' house. And my kids, because my kids are with me at this point, my kids, one of the younger one had gone to sleep at a friend's house, and the older one had he had been invited by a friend of his in the neighborhood, and I mean, things were really bad, and you know, I was, you know, trying to make things as normal as possible. So anyway, this friend who had a motorcycle, my eldest, he's almost 16 by this point. He's like not even a month away from being 16. And so they wanted to go, his friend and him wanted to go to, you know, dinner nearby at you know, he's got his motorcycle, they're going to go out to dinner. And so I'm like, okay, fine, be careful and whatever. And in fact, if my son had stayed home that evening, you know, I wouldn't have gone to the party. But he had gone out with this friend. So I had gone to the party, say hi, you know, happy birthday, and just, you know, make my presence and be polite, and then go home. And so when I get home, when I'm driving up, and of course, I mean, my son, but as I said, he's almost 16 years old. He has the key, so he's already in the house. I mean, obviously, because it's, you know, it was 1:30. And when I arrive to the house, 2 cop cars sitting in front of my house with my husband, with the car there. And both you know, each car, so there's 4 police officers and 2 cop cars sitting in front of my house. And I'm like, oh, okay, great. Because my ex-husband's cousin is on the local police force. Well, Guardia Civil, same difference. I mean, for Americans, they don't understand the difference. So it's basically the same difference. But Guardia Civil was a Franco, and this guy was Franco military. And he's some real, well, can't go into all of that on so anyway, I'm like, okay, great. So I see him. I turn right and I'm going to my friend's house, who lives down just around the corner, and try and get some witnesses for them stopping me. And so I'm just, you know, I pull it up, I stop the car, I'm getting out of the car to ring the doorbell and say, you guys come out here, I want some witnesses here. And they stop me. And so then the guy's like, you got to blow in our machine. And I said, this is bullshit. I said, this is a total setup. This is entrapment. This is ridiculous. This is obvious what you guys are doing. And I'm not blowing into any machine. You take me down to the police station. I want a lawyer. And I also want representatives. I want you to call the American consulate, and I want you to call the French consulate. and I want them to be brought down here. And then I'll blow into your machine with those 3 people. So they didn't call the consulates, which is going to bite them in the ass. Of course. But they did, you know, they had to get me a lawyer. So it was a court-appointed lawyer. She did okay. I mean, you know, I can't, this should have gone really, this is one of the things that I'll be challenging and showing in the international courts, because there were 5 jurisprudences that went to the Supreme Court, had gone up to the Supreme Court, that of serious, I mean, these kids were in accidents and serious accidents. I mean, like real DWI stuff. And because I mean, by the time I blew, they're like, well, okay, but she still is over. So technically it was you know, a DWI, but I'm like, you guys, this is, I'm going to be challenging also, is this to go after people and target people when you want to bring them down? Or is it to try and regulate the problem of, you know, people who are driving drunk out on the roads? Because I never drive drunk out on the roads. Yeah, in our neighborhood, I mean, everybody does that. And in fact, the cops do not bother all of these, you know, 40-year-old plus who are going from house to house and having, you know, definitely over the limit wine, but they're driving 15 miles an hour to their houses, which are 3 blocks away, or, you know, 5, 6. This is literally, oh gosh, it's been so long since I did that, but I think it's in mile, I think it was like 2 miles. And yeah, after that, I was sure anytime I went to anybody's house for dinner, I'd walk. Yeah. And so, but then it also, so there were 5 jurisprudence in the Supreme Court of cases of real DWI, and the Supreme Court had found that, I forget, because this is years ago, I had looked at this, but it, you know, it invades your, it's a rights of privacy issue, and that this is not, you know, they can't do it. So even if you got a DWI, it can't be upheld because they're forcing you to submit to this. So I'm like, wait a second, I got 5 jurisprudence at the Supreme Court that shows this is bullshit. Now, if Jorge Capel of Cuatro Casas or any of the others had been on all of this case and been doing like I told them to do, then it would have gone up to the Supreme Court. But then everything would have been exposed. If they had really done their job, everything would have been exposed. And there's a lot there. Some of the stuff I can't talk about on the internet. So, no. And everybody in Washington, I mean, first we've got the consulates, the embassies, both the French and the Spaniards. Excuse me, the American and the French. And then everybody in Washington. I mean, you know, it is to the point of, when are people going to understand that the more that they try and shut me up, the deeper they're digging their grave, because we're talking about political persecution. And that was my whole point with the little idiots over at the IMF Institute for Capacity Development. The viperous little hornet nest, just like the viperous little hornet nest. I'm sure that's what's going on in Governor Cuomo's case. The more I look at that, the more I see these things. Yeah, okay. I have to get these little ladies, all of them one by one, in a room and some interrogation. Believe me, if you prosecutors think that you know how to interrogate, you're the only ones who know how to interrogate. Where do you think you learned it from? So then we've got Amal Clooney. Amal Clooney is Doherty Chambers, isn't it Doherty Street Chambers, where Kara Starmer is. I already, Amal Clooney. She's just like Kerry Kennedy up on the podium and rah, 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 I'm a human rights lawyer. I'm a human rights lawyer. I'm a human rights specialist. I'm a human rights, champion. Only champion they are for themselves. Their power and glory. Marie Slaughter is another one in here. My goodness. Anne-Marie Slaughter is at New America. This is one of the newer think tanks. I can join the bandwagon. I mean, they keep on opening them. And I'm like, well, okay, another one to get on my little bandwagon here. And I'll see you in court. My God, you talk about a celebrity feminist that they've filled her head with all sorts of stuff about how wonderful she is. So she's Harvard. And my God, it's one of these things with the more titles they have and the more awards they have, the deeper shit they are. Because she, I think, on the International Bar Association, on the board or head of that. Oh my goodness, several things. Harvard, pretty sure it's Harvard, but the law school. She was at Secretary of State, Director of Public Policy. I forget, some BS position under Hillary Clinton. I'm going to be examining everything that was done when she was over there. Her career. I mean, and then she's got several books out. Oh, one of them is Women. I can't remember. I always have to Google it. There's so many of these books. Women, it's one of the latest of, because she does admit that women cannot have it all in this. It's Women, Business, and Family, I think, something to that effect. And, she even admits that she's getting raked over the coals by her feminist sisters for saying these things. No, we're not supposed to deviate from the narrative of women can have it all. God forbid. You don't tell them that women cannot have it all. Because that's what that's our, then our goose is cooked. And it's just like Phyllis Chesler and she says this at the beginning of the book, women's inhumanity to women. And that thing, I was like, oh, thank you, Phyllis Chesler. The feminists are gonna behead you for this one when they find out how that book has helped me in exposing from the words of the expert, because the feminists really raked her over the coals for even daring to publish that stuff. Because the tactics of the game are laid out in black and white. And they don't like that. They don't like that out there for 1 minute. And they're going to even like it less when I'm giving a voice. And they found out whose hands it's. Believe me, their own reports. I mean, it's there. All the evidence. from A to Z on not only how the rights of women and children are being degraded and the situation is worse and worse, but also how and why they are doing it. And the bottom line is they do not want it exposed, the gaslighting, the tactics and the strategies of their gaslighting. That's why I threaten them so much. I see through it, like, oh, there's a little bit of fog here. So then who else do we have on here? So Anne Marie Slaughter, no, she's not going to do well. Oh, Lori Handrahan. This is just a horrific case, horrific. Her daughter, 2 years old. So she's in DC, pretty sure this is Maine, pretty sure. So her daughter is sexually abused. This is a sexual abuse case. And the father is having overnights with the lawyer. So the daughter is being sex trafficked, as well as molested by the father, but sex trafficked to his lawyer, who of course will give him a good defense. Because excuse me, overnight, and we see this time and time again, there is ample physical proof, ample, and the judges are just covering it all up. I'm not looking at that. Didn't happen, just like we're trying. Didn't happen. I said it didn't happen. Judge Newman with Aaron Eddy, I already told you that didn't happen. See, Judge Newman should have found out who I was. He didn't like that little lady in his back of his courtroom, but he should have found out who I was. He's out in Middleburg. See how the world is small? Married to Sheila Johnson. So Lori Handrahan's case is bad. Now, Lori Handrahan, she's one of these PhDs that, like, I forget exactly what her specialty, if she's got law, women's rights, I forget off the top of my head, but an associate professor over at American University. And, Google her, she's spoken on CNN and human rights, I think, because she, the work that she does, I think, is in a poor country. Because this is also we want to make, whether it be the domestic violence people or the human rights people, the problems, they're only in poor countries or poor people's families. Respectable countries and families like ours, that doesn't happen. And this is, at all cost, this secret has to be, otherwise we aren't respectable. And therefore we are no longer entitled to be entitled. So Lori Handrahan, I mean, the case is horrific, and I don't understand, because there's Cindy, they laugh at me because I pronounce this as the French. So it's in English, it's Dumas. I say Dumas. So Cindy Dumas, Lori Handrahan, and myself are really the only advocates who are working at international levels. Cindy Dumas, she has put together cases, gathered stories. You were supposed to put it together in just one page and get everybody their stories, and it was submitted to UN Women. And I believe this was back in 2014. It's been sitting there. UN Women's up creek without a paddle. Michelle Bachelet, she was over at UN Women. She got a letter from me, I'm pretty sure. So, these are the only three people. I don't know how many times I've tried to talk to Cindy Dumas. And, other of the advocates have been like, well, you should talk to her. I said, I've tried to. I've sent her emails. Can we talk about, what you're doing, and getting together and collaborating here. Same with Lori Handerhan. When she's in DC, or I think she's still here. When I heard about her case, I called her up several times. Wasn't on my phone. I had minutes. I don't, I usually just send emails and get back in touch with me or through Facebook. But several times afterwards, I gave up because I was like, obviously she doesn't want to talk to me. But I mean, thank God my case is not, about my children and these horrific, in fact, I got raped over the coals because my case is not a horrific case of child sex or physical abuse. It's emotional abuse. And most of it is directed towards me. I mean, so for these ladies, my case is nothing. It's bullshit. And I was actually like assaulted verbally at the first demonstration I went to. Well, it goes on several days. So I had joined, and I think it was the last day. They stay here for 3 days, I think. This one woman, and I mean, I was blown away. I was like, oh my God, what's going on here? She was like, you shouldn't even be here. This is about the children, not about you. I mean, this is one of the victims, one of the activists that's involved with these groups. And I was blown away. I was like, whoa. Well, there's lots of stories like that over the years with these groups that I'm like, well, of course, you can't work together and you're all just trying to promote yourselves or your books. I mean, Cindy Dumas, I think, each of them, oh, I'm going to be the savior of this entire movement and become the star. I mean, that's the only thing that I can think that they think that I'm about, which is not the case. But just goes to show, see, if they think that, that's because that's how their mind works. I know. As I say, Lori Handerhan's case is horrific. Yes, she has the ear of the press because she gets on CNN and one of these experts. But also, now she's in academia. I forget if she has a law degree or not. She could submit and get the ball rolling. And then she really would come out the star. But I think since she thinks that's the only explanation I can come up with, why, and I've gotten it from all of them. All of them. I mean, I think like, well, see, the thing is the California Protected Parent Association, I wouldn't be eligible, if you will, to have been put in as the new director, because I'm not in California, and that wouldn't be my objective. But I mean, I forget what her name, Campbell, the woman that they have in now. I mean, the last time we were up at Capitol Hill in the lobbying, I was like, oh, what's this Hitler bullshit? I'm done. I'm not gonna waste my time. So that you can have your whole entourage of all of these activists who spend so much money coming to Washington. Most of them stay in the hostel, and they're all dirt poor. Some of them are, coming in their cars, they live in their cars. And I'm like, you guys come here year and year and year after year after year to do the same thing. You're not getting anywhere. Why? Because you're going up there to get photos with I mean, nowadays they don't even care if it's the congressman. Now it's with the staffer. They're happy that they got their photos and they can go home and show all the good that they're doing in the world. Like, that's not how you talk to these congressional people. You march in there and you tell those little ladies, you say, guess what? I got some human rights lawyers. You get this done yesterday. Otherwise, we're going to be hauling your ass to court tomorrow. No, I'm treasonous because I want to expose to the world, like they don't already know, they're the ones who've been bitching at me for years and years about it. Exposed to the world that the United States is not the land of the free and the brave, and life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. No, it's the pursuit of self-destruction. Because one thing everybody in the United States has in common these days, it's the self-destructive part. That they're all on the same page. So, again, just because we have victims are not pure as the driven snow. I mean, none of us are. So, and that's the narrative that the feminists want. That the victims are angels, and this is detrimental because then they do attack that. Well, if she's not an angel, then she's not a victim. No, I mean, a lot of times I'm like, oh Lord, with a mother and a father like that, this poor child had, in the case of Lori Handrahan, that poor child is goose is cooked for the rest of its life. I think the psychological damage that child has gone through. I mean, see, the thing is, and it's in there in the literature, the physical damage, heals much, 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 much quicker than the psychological damage. And if you don't deal with it, it destroys you. And a lot of times you become the perpetrators yourself. I see this all the time. I go out in my family. I mean, you know, all my siblings, you know, complain about mom, and then you just repeat it. Everybody at Foxborough's doing that. I mean, almost all of the you know, the people that I grew up with, I'm like, how can you, you know, you bitched and screamed about all of this stuff, and you're doing the same thing for your kids and living your life the same way, and it will be self-destructive ultimately in the same way. Oh, some of you may not, you know, some of you may not be destitute financially, my parents, and still have money, so everybody believes that you're successful, because of course if you have money you're successful. Dementia, Alzheimer's, and you know, I'm not making this stuff up. I mean, I know just from personal observations all of my life, but it's also in all of the literature and the proof by all of the experts. And if everybody would just look at evidence and facts and logic and common sense instead of the cackling bullshit of the feminists and their cronies. I'm sorry, the LGBT. Well, I'm not sure if I got the LGBT in here. You know, I'm really, you guys, really, you know, you complain about oppression. Yeah, you know how to dish it out, don't you? And I mean, I mean, my ex was so homophobic, you know, that was forbidden. But in college, well, there's actually quite a few girls from Foxcroft. Well, I had always, well, I was actually after I got out of, was in college, that people would be like, oh yeah, that's a lesbian school. And I said, well, I don't think so. I don't know. I didn't really, there were a couple girls, but I mean, since then, some have come out of the closet. Which is fine. I mean, but in college, I had quite a few. In fact, like almost all of my friends were gay. They were the gay men, and except for one time, and I was like, see why I always have men as roommates or housemates. Well, I did move out one time after a month, because I mean, not as dirty as it was here, but as messy. And my gay friend, I mean, it was a whole bunch of gay friends, and they said, we warned you what they, the mess that they leave in the kitchen. I said, I'm sorry, we will not be friends, because one of the guys, well, both of the guys were friends of mine. I said, if I stay here, we'll no longer be friends. So anyway, I think that's when I ended up with the girl, and I was like, well, I don't know if this was any better, but you know, and you know, a lot of them during college were still struggling with their, you know, coming out, and then also even more so their family. So on many occasions, I used to play girlfriend when family would come to town, and you know, we're still, I would say, young. So, oh, this is my date. I don't have to be the girlfriend. This is my date. And the parents are happy to see them with a girl. And we hold hands. And, you know, because I feel for these guys. They have to live their life as they want. And I know what is that like having a control freak parent, particularly mother, who you don't live your life for you, you live it for her. So where are all my gay friends? All living the good life. Now, Doug Shar, you know, I mean, okay, we were never great friends or anything like that, but it's like canceled. Another, I mean, I haven't really contacted him, but Oscar Cuello, who works for Ralph Lauren, which brings my sister in Telluride, the first job that she got out there, or, you know, got her start as the chef to the celebrity chef to the stars, was Ralph Lauren at his ranch. As his personal chef. But she got pissed off because she said, well, no, because she would be on a retainer. And when he'd come out there, then she, you know, would have to be working. And of course, she would get more money when she worked. But this created a problem for her because she couldn't take any catering contracts because she had to be available. I was like, well, first off, you're getting the retainer to not do anything, and you know, you can hire some people, and then he becomes, you go there and they take that. But she's always, no, this didn't work out, always with a business, you know, that she's going to get rich, you know, get rich quick. And of course, she never follows through. She's had a couple of good ideas. She has ski goggles. I'm telling her for years and years, I mean, over 10 years, if not 15, it's a good idea, but you have a distribution problem. If you want to sell, yeah, you can go online and try and sell 100 widget, you know, units, even 1,000. Even 10,000, but you're going to be spinning your wheels and not making a lot of money. I said, go to the you know, big companies, try and sell them the patent, you know, and you get the royalties. They do all the work. Of course, you get a small percentage, but that's going to be a hell of a lot more money, you know, in millions of units sold, than what you could be, you know, making and having to work really hard to make it by distributing yourself. And then you have to deal with all of the manufacturing, you know, you just hand it over to them. I mean, sometimes, you know, depending on the product that you have and the idea that you have, this whole, oh, you know, no, it's all for me. I'm going to do it all. I mean, this is my thing with global expats. My God, never. In fact, it was, you know, the idea came up because I to enable to, it was the marketing, international marketing of artisan products. In order to do it, I needed a network, a global network of, I mean, expat wives was my idea and my target for various reasons. But I needed a global network. I needed a network of people. It's the same thing with my work, my activism work. I mean, I'm sitting here, you know, writing. Carrie Bettinger Lopez, who they just love my writing. I'm like, you really think that I I'm living like this because I want to write. I'm writing to inform you people so you'll move your freaking asses. I have better things to do. And I'm repeating and repeating and repeating and repeating the same thing till I am blue in the face. I mean, my old family, my sister, my younger sister, the feminist, she's the one who really loves to get me, How many times do I have to explain the same freaking thing to you people? And it's fundamental ABC. None of these people, I mean, I keep on telling, I mean, even my own family, I'm like, you're proving that the college degrees and college educations are bullshit. You didn't learn a goddamn thing. And you think you know everything when you know nothing. Oh, opining. I think it's particularly Dana Bash. She's opining. Oh God. I'm like, you can take your little opining and stick it up where the sun don't shine, because how can you opine about something when you have no idea what you're talking about? I mean, I love it when particularly my younger sister calls to tell me what I should do. I'm like, well, my mother, when I was little, when the song came out, you can't even run your own life. I'll be damned if you're going to run mine. When my mom would be talking to me, that thing would be going through my head. And I got the same thing to say my sisters. And everybody else who continually wants to give me advice and tell me that I'm doing it wrong, that if I would just change the way I'm doing things or do something, this or that, then everything would be okay. And usually there's suggestions. I'm like, did that about 5-6 years ago. I did that 7 years ago. I did that 3 years ago. Did that last week. And then they go, oh, and walk away, rather than going, oh my goodness, so what's going on? No. See, this gets into the coaches, the life coaches. I mean, only in the figurative, sense, but they all need to be taken out of the shot. Only in the figurative sense. I think it's William Shakespeare or something. I need to be taken and put in a psychiatric ward or locked in prison. Okay, so that gets into so these feminists, they are not for women's rights. I'll wrap this up. Gosh, oh gosh, I really went on. See, I'm glad I only did 2. Nancy Birdsall. She was at the Center for Partnership Development, I think it's called, Global Development. Ahmad Massoud replaced her, his IMF. So Nancy Birdsall, she spoke at the 2016 spring meeting. She was stepping down from this organization. So I said, oh, okay. And I had finished by that time I had done I had done my financing for development report, financing for development in the summer, it's night's dream report. It's still draft. I still have not a lot of things that need finishing. But I mean, you know, some editing and cleaning up. And the spring meetings, I had done the coverage of the spring meetings. So, I mean, I've seen pretty much, I mean, of course, I'm always learning more, and I'm always investigating another person, another person, another person. But with the IMF, after the spring meetings, I was like, okay, IMF, I got your number. It's all making sense now. And you're not sitting pretty. In fact, you're sitting really, 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 really bad. So I applied for the job of, you know, the new director for, as I say, I forget, Center for Global Development or Global Partnership or whatever. And Larry Summers. And then the other girl, these were people who were doing the looking, you know, the headhunters who were going to find a new director when Nancy Birdsall stepped down. Larry Summers, and it was a girl from, I believe, Holton Arms, graduate from Holton Arms in HR function. And so they did the global search for the expert. They come up with Ahmad Massoud. Once again, the chair is moving around on the Titanic. I'm like, okay, you guys, why didn't I get an interview? This guy, old guard IMF, he's up shit's creek without a paddle. And you put him at the head of this thing? Okay, fine. Get on the bandwagon. And I'm going to bring the entire organization down, because what you people are doing is fraudulent, just like everybody else. So Oxfam is another that it was, I spoke, I think her name is Winnie something. I spoke with her at the 2016 spring meetings. Sent her an email going, wait a second. IMF needs a serious investigation from people like you instead of becoming buddy-buddy with them. See, one of the problems with before, when I first started at the IMF, during the meetings, you had lots and lots of demonstrations in the streets. So what they did was they invited because these are the civil society organizations, and they would demonstrate. So to become liberal, they said, okay, we're going to invite you into our meetings. You can attend our meetings. So you can attend, by invitation, delegate, the big wigs, or you can apply as a civil servant organization rep, which of course I did, and that's how I went. So, I'm there on political issues. I am a civil servant organization rep who should get a little respect instead of the bullshit. And particularly given the fact that it comes from people that I worked for 4 years who are in serious problems for their complicity to all of the labor rights violations and the mismanagement and everything going over on in Institute for Capacity Development. In fact, one of them, IMLU, is one of the perpetrators. Part of the little hornet's nest that I was talking about with Governor Cuomo. See, these little hornet nests They're terrorist cells. They really are. And they need to be investigated under, you have you have US federal law, RICO, Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, Patriot Act, showed how it can be done under that. There's various ways to go after them and to get rid of these terrorist cells. And now we've got the domestic violent extremists DVE report by the Biden administration. That also sets some parameters of what they can be investigated under and held to account. But that won't happen unless the legal community is cleaned up and the courts are cleaned up. So, what are all of these NGOs, human rights NGOs, because Amnesty International is in there as well. When I was in Spain, when I saw all the crap, because for me, I mean, it's still, once again, I want to get everybody in court and get some explanations, because it boggles my mind when I fell into the wonderland of Alice. I was like, it's because I even remember with Jorge Capel, I said, well, I thought Spain was a democracy now, but obviously not. So what does he do? He turns around and gives me the proof that it's not, that the legal community is intentionally subverting the Spanish Constitution every single time they walk into a freaking courtroom. And every single time they take on a freaking case. Now, I thought it was just there. I mean, this is Spain. This is Southern Europe. Everything's black market. Everything's corrupt. We all know that, and we're all trying to maintain it. And when I got back to the States, I was like, and the little ladies, because I first arrived at the demonstrations thinking, I'm going to get here. And everybody's going to be like, oh, my Lord. Oh, no. They say, oh, yeah, it's going on everywhere. We're just bad here as it is there. Welcome to the club. Get in line. I mean, why is it that all of these activists that have been in the game now, some of them for over 20 years, they still just chug. We keep on, we'll keep on, go on to all of the meetings, and we'll get there. Oh, enough of the meetings, enough of the committees. When I hear the word committee, I just, okay. When you guys are finished, you let me know if you decided anything first. That's the first. Did you actually accomplish something and decide something and come up with a consensus there? And then my second question becomes, and how are we going to implement this? Because until you can give me an action plan, I'll stay over here and keep on researching, and keep on expanding and making it more and more impossible for you people to understand what I'm talking about. Because I've literally been told that they can't understand because, their minds are too small. I'm like, well, let me know when the committee's over. Send me a memo. Send me a memo. Send me another memo. Really, the workplaces are out of control. So let's see who we get to here. I will go fast for the other ones. Oh, yeah, well, I've already done a lot of info, so that's good. Okay, so this Kevin McCarthy, don't know much about him. He's California, Trump loyalist. January 6th, apparently he said, I guess that's what I love. All Americans are responsible. And he does have a good point. You know, the after you know, Hitler was taken out after World War II, everybody, you know, they were scandalized. How could the German people allow this to have happened? Where is the United States any different? I mean, okay, maybe our concentration camps at the border are not yet Auschwitz. Experiments and some really sick stuff that went on. But we're getting there. We'll be there soon. And oh, I've got on here with a question mark, zipper problem. So I'm not sure. I'd have to look on Wikipedia. He is extreme right, but you know, just another example of what's going on with all of them. So then let's see what I've got for myself. I mean, when I was watching that Kerry Kennedy, what I mean, I'm sorry. You know, I know it's the mother of your children, but that is one piece of work. Oh, I got a joker. Okay. Oh, never mind. Okay, so and I still haven't calculated from the last time, so on those cards. But you know, I'll have taken the farm from everybody pretty soon. Okay, second round we got here, info. Okay, I've already talked about a lot about info. I mean, it was, oh, one funny thing with the info story was, so after you know, I leave a couple of years later, I see that Anne Beatrix Keller has become the director of development at Knowledge Ecology International, KEI, Yukon Circle. It's a small NGO. It's a Ralph Nader initiative. Joseph Stitchglitz is on the board. And I see little Miss Anne Beatrix Keller as director of development at that place. I'm like, excuse me, that woman is not qualified for that position at all. She's not qualified to be a mother, not qualified to be a wife. She's not, maybe clean toilets, but that's about it. And you're putting her as director of development, and I want to see that woman's ass in prison. I'm going to destroy her. She wants to screw with me and destroy me. See, everybody who is covering up for Anne Beatrix Keller and Adrian Thapa and their little games with me, you're accessories under the law. I was very clear to those little two ladies. I would be making an example out of them that they would never forget, and nobody else would either. They want to play hardball? Oh yeah, they had no problem. I was clear. And they were clear that they had no problem. And everybody who is protecting them in any way, shape, or form can go to jail without passing go. No problem. No problem. See, yeah, it's big city. Tough games. Tough people. If you want to come here and live the good life and play hardball with the big boys, bienvenue. I mean that woman. See, this is if I was some, man or some kid and somebody pulled all of this crap on me and I didn't know how to handle it like I'm handling it through a legal channel. And if everybody blocks me, then okay, I open another door and I open another door. But I'm going to keep my cool and make sure I get to the courts and keep my cool because the objective is to get me to lose my cool and do something stupid. See how these kids, they lose it and they grab a gun and go and shoot at the schools. I mean, I'm not going to do that, but I understand. And what I'm trying to make everybody understand is, the type of things that piss them off and they have no recourse and they get laughed at in the face by the people protecting them and then told how all these people are doing good in the world. After a while, I know I wasn't born yesterday. Come on. So, you got all those a little. Now, I haven't gone into this point too much. So, the president of the World Bank, his wife or the spouse is honorary president of the World Bank Family Network, the IMF, the managing director. So it was Anne Sinclair, then Xavier Gioconte, then Kinov, I forget, it's Kinov, which is Kristalina Georgieva's husband. He never came here. He's in his home country. I think it's Bulgaria. As Xavier Gioconte. See, this is another thing. All of you little ladies who want to have it all and get in positions of power. See, your wives used to do a job. Now your husbands are too busy, or your partners in the case of Christine Lagarde, too busy to be taking on the duties that the spouses should be taking on. Now, I know Xavier Gioconte is kind of like, well, I have nothing to do with this organization. And I'm sure Kinov is the same thing. Not in my books. You are honorary president or honorary chair. You better be watching what's going on in there. Just like, and for good reason, because if you are on the ball, and this goes for Anne Sinclair, if she was on the ball and knew the kind of bullshit and the type of people that the IMF is employing, and that this is, basically on HR. I mean, they're the ones who do the hiring process and the promotional one. But if Anne Sinclair and then Xavier Gioconte and Kinov were implicated in their spouses' careers and making sure that nobody's doing anything around them that could come and bite their spouses in the ass, down the line. Because ultimately, managing director of the IMF, you're responsible. Same with president of the World Bank. And I mean, I've gotten so far up the chain of command that you've gotten a letter. Just like with, Secretary of State, let's see, Kerry, Tillerson, Pompeo. Oh no, I think Pompeo, I haven't gotten, he didn't get a letter to me. I didn't have time. But I'd gone through the chain of command up to the top. Nobody was doing it. See, this is another thing. Unless, I think I've already gone over this point, unless these big wigs know what's going on beneath them, they can't be held responsible. That's why it's so important to have staff that aren't vicious hornet, little bitches. What do you call them? Mean girls. See, obviously, everybody knows what little bitches these are. Now, what the hell are they doing there? They're civil servants. They shouldn't be there to play games. They should be there to serve taxpayer money. I mean, all taxpayers should be pissed off. So, Catherine Matthew, she's with the World Bank Family Network. For some reason, she has me blocked on LinkedIn. So she can explain why that's going on. I don't know. She doesn't like what I have to say. Maybe I sent her, messages. Oh, I'm just waiting for the day that I have somebody put a restraining order on me because I'm bothering them with my letters of the truth and the facts and the evidence. And they are too busy with their important meetings and committees and partying and schmoozing with the other important bigwigs in this town to be bothered with a commoner like myself. And this is the great democracy that we live in. And believe me, this goes back, almost from the beginning when these organizations were started. Not sure. I think I might have spoken about Elizabeth LaGrange. She's the domestic violence coordinator at the World Bank and IMF. She's the one who's supposed to help any of the families that are in cases of domestic violence. What it is exactly they do to help them, I want to know in detail. Give them a shoulder to cry on like everybody else? Bullshit. I'm sorry. From the beginning, I was like, wait a second. I'm not looking for a shoulder to cry on. I'm looking for a lawyer. Sitting there crying on everybody's shoulders and looking for sympathy. That's not my MO. Never. And this is one of the big problems because that is exactly what the system is. The only thing these NGOs offer is sympathy. Ay, anda, anda, no llores, mi amorcita. While they do good in the world, because, and this, they're all of these people who migrate there, they they suffer from Munchausen by proxy. See, it makes them feel good, also because they lack inner sense of self. So it makes them feel important and good and an adrenaline high to, you know, see somebody else suffering, and then they can come in and play the concerned person. I mean, it's really, it's very, very prevalent with the narcissism epidemic, because of course these people don't have a life, don't have, you know, a good sense of who they are. Therefore, they can appear to be kind and caring and generous by writing a check or you know, sympathy. Oh, you poor thing. Oh, you poor thing. Oh, you. And they really do buy into this, that this is how they're helping. When my book comes out, you can read about that subject, but that's into a lot. Sorry. But you know, these women are very sick, very sick. And I mean, it's the men as well. You know, this is not just you know, targeting the feminists. Everybody has to be held to account, because it is you know, a multifaceted problem. But the feminists are a motor, and they have to be disempowered. I mean, I would like all of the men, and in fact, I saw this just recently. It might have been on Facebook posting from one of these little ladies of they need a lot of wombs to continue the survival of the human species. But we don't need a lot of men for all of those wombs. Men should think about it. I've been studying all of these little ladies for the past 15 years, all of their literature, all of their little maneuvers, and all of their little games, and all of their little groups. This is the agenda. They're gonna come and rule the world, and all of the men will be totally, totally castrated. So then we've got, is that Corey Lewandowski, Trump campaign manager, 2015 to 2016. He only lasted 1 year, or maybe not even the full year. Okay, Trumpanzee. Approved Carter Page's July 2016 trip to Moscow. Page under investigation by U.S. Department of Justice for conspiring with Russia to influence 2016 election. Interviewed by U.S. House Intelligence Committee on Russia investigation, where he combatively refused to answer lawmakers' questions. arrested and charged with battery for grabbing reporter Michelle Field's arm at campaign event. Charges were later dropped. Fired from Trump campaign in April 2016, escorted from Trump Tower by security. I mean, I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but wasn't this par for the course during Trump's campaign? I mean, he got in because Kellyanne Conway was able to come in and control him and, control herself enough to not be escorted out of Trump Towers by security. I mean, do not tell me that these people are not volatile, all of them. It's a powder keg. And I forget Carter Page, I remember the name, but trip to Moscow. This is another thing with all of this Moscow stuff. One of the problems is Trump's been in the business world. Détente ended a long time ago. And so all of these guys have been doing business deals and have their buddy, these are friends now. So they went to, a party, and this is why also bringing in the businessman, particularly who had no boundaries, nor anybody else in his family, just was a disaster waiting to happen. If he had totally divested himself, like a normal person would be, who was, of good faith. I'm not saying keep out, just because you're a businessman, you have to be on, ineligible, but you have to commit to what is, what it is you're doing and where your interests are, and prevent a conflict of interest. I mean, a lot of times it's just, well, wait a second, for yourself to say, I can't, I have to, stay out of this because I do have a conflict of interest, and I'm a human being, and there is too much of a conflict of interest for me here. So, I have to stay out. So we've got Brad Parscale, digital media director, Trump 2016 campaign, Trojan horse. Pascal's company received $91 million from 2016 Trump campaign to manage its online and digital media operation dubbed Project Alamo. Shared Trump campaign office with Cambridge Analytica, GOP, and Facebook, placing Pascal at intersection of Russian hacking efforts. In response to congressional investigation, Pascal's company did not deny contact with foreign actors during campaign, but failed to turn over documents requested by Congress. Yeah, as I say, it's just, why is this scandalous? It's standard fare. Oh, and Facebook. I mean, they're in so much hot water, I wouldn't even know where to start. And I don't even know about the stuff that everybody else knows about. I know about my own stuff. So then, and I get a card. I get a king of mine is kind of boring because we already know RICO, Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, Patriot, genocide, and crimes against humanity. Sorry, I win, you guys. So, okay, let's do my favorite part. I think I have to stay with 2 cards because see, gossip is important, but something of substance, please. Who got Botox? I don't care about. Who got a boob job? I don't care about. Who's sleeping with who? I don't care about it. Well, if it gets into anybody who's underage or you know, and how shall I say it? You know, the antiquated of, oh my lord, oh my lord, oh my lord, you know, had an affair or this, you know, extremes on either side are not good. But when it's like, oh God, he's known, he's not, I'm like, well, this says something about the character of the person. I mean, it does get to a certain point where, wait a second, that, you know, like Juan Williams. Oh no, that for me, that's like one of the funniest stories. And I promise you, I would love to be a fly on the wall when his wife hears about that story. See, I am sure he's gonna be more afraid of that. Because apparently, I've been told, his zipper problems are and his philandering are well known in this. And if, you know, and if it wasn't the case, maybe his wife wouldn't be so concerned about that and a little bit more about her country. And, you know, the company that her husband is working for, whether it be NPR, because I got cases against it. NPR is up shit's creek without a paddle as well. Okay, so for all of these Alpha people and you know, the honorary presidents and everything, it was careless of him to put another man's helmet on with the man in it too. I promise it keeps on repeating, and I'm shuffling them. I mean, oh, there's another one we've seen. I said it very loud and clear. I went and shouted in his ear. This is one for Corey Lewandowski. I mean, like, I know we've seen it is just always the same. And here's another one. Oh, I beg your pardon. This is with Brad Pascal. Oh, the digital. Oh my God. The techie liberalism. That's got to go. It's got to go. It is driving the world batty. So we called him Tortoise because he taught us. Well, I hope this little tortoise has taught some people a thing or two, and that it'll be of value and of use, and we can get some action. But not the action, not another repeat of January 6th. And that's just going to continue and continue and continue. So anyway, that's that wraps it up for this evening. And as usual, I forgot last time. Wear your masks. You know, particularly without all of these idiots who are not getting vaccinated. I mean, I know what's going through their minds. That's the problem. I know. And it's crazy. Absolutely crazy. Okay, so have a nice evening. Good night.